What I'm curious about right now is tell me about Obi. This, I still don't feel comfortable calling it a massive failure because I thought it was like, I just thought it was interesting, like, because it was a stretch to go from, the Glif and the Cosmonaut, these two sort of tech-oriented sort of white dude things, to cocktails, another sort of white dude-oriented thing. I guess that's sort of similar, but it's fundamentally just a leap to a different thing. Then there was Obi, which was a laser toy for cats.
Yep.
Which, I mean, you got lasers, you got cats, comes together, and the internet's just full of success stories about cat lasers.
Yeah.
But what went wrong with Obi, do you think?
I mean, that's a good question. I think we've asked ourselves that, since it failed and for the months after, and I think our conclusion was just it was a bad product. I mean, it was well designed and it was nice looking and it worked how it was supposed to. But if people don't want it, then that product shouldn't exist. And we can't really blame it on marketing or getting the word out, really, because we have the privilege of having been around for a while. So we have a pretty good built-in audience, and we're pretty good at reaching out to press people, and we even got some pretty good press, like on TechCrunch and such. So certainly there's more that we could have done in marketing, and maybe there were some like key people that are really good in this space that could have helped spread the word. But honestly, I think it's just the beauty of Kickstarter is you can see if ideas fail also. And this was Kickstarter working perfectly, and that it was, hey, only these amount of people want to buy this, and that's not really enough to make it a sustainable thing.
Now, I'll bet you, so two things, okay? First of all, I'll bet you that point of view, hey, this is just Kickstarter doing what it's supposed to be doing. Hey, good, Kickstarter works. Wasn't your first reaction to Obi failing, right?
No.
What was your first reaction to it? What was the moment where you're like, oh my God, this might not work?
It was really the first day because
the first day of like you release the Kickstarter and you're like, oh my God, it's not going to work.
Yeah, pretty much. Because every project we've had, we've kind of been able to tell from the beginning, like, oh, this caught on, like people are getting this, and this one just wasn't. So it was kind of a red flag, in that regard.
So okay, wow. So and what was the feeling? Like what was it?
Devastation.
Was it really? Was it like that? Was it super crushing?
It was crushing. I mean, like, to be honest, I was like going to places like, can Studio Neat still be a company? Like, is this the end? Like, have we kind of exhausted our ability to like make things that people want? And do I need to start looking for jobs elsewhere? Like, it went that far. How would you categorize that feeling? What would you label that feeling in particular? I mean, kind of like sadness.
So sad. Yeah.
No, I mean, it felt like, a failure, and like, I kind of, it was just like so devastating that one of the reasons I started like kind of honestly just like poking around for like, oh, I wonder if like Frog Design here in Austin is hiring. And it was, part of it was like, oh, because I mean, Studio Neat might not exist anymore, but also it was like, I don't know if I'm built for this. Like, this is so,
I don't know if I'm good at it.
Devastating. Well, not so much, I don't know if I'm good at it. It's just like, it's so much harder to take the failures where it's like, man, if I just had like a salary job and could just go into work like 9 from 5, like you don't have to deal with this like emotional turmoil. But I'm fine now. I got over it.
I'm so resonating with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, so like, I've had that exact moment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm just like,
it's just like, why?
Which is what? Say that again?
It's just like, why? Why put yourself through this is like what I was asking myself. It's like, is this
now when
worth
you,
it?
okay, so when you look back at that, do you think you were being too hard on yourself? Do you think you weren't seeing reality? Do you think you were seeing sort of seeing it differently? than what became known as reality to you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it took, once the campaign ended and we were able to just like keep going and we released another product immediately, and it was really small scale, but it did kind of well. And so it was nice to have that like morale boost kind of to pick us back up. But I think at the time I was totally kind of going over the top a little bit with how I was feeling. But I think it was good to feel those feelings, and I think it's kind of informed how we've approached things moving forward.
Can you actually put your finger on what's different in how you specifically look at this Kickstarter campaign to Obi or any of the others before?
Yeah, well, I think what Obi taught us, there were kind of two things that we decided we wanted to shift with how we were approaching things. The first was a little bit of I guess you could say, honestly, like a little bit of a retreat to a comfort zone where we got our start with these kind of like Apple focused products. And that's the bulk of our audience was built up of people that are interested in that type of thing. So we were like, why don't we serve that audience that we already have instead of just pivoting all the time to like these totally random things? And I think that's part of the problem with the cocktail stuff and the Neat Ice Kit is the fact that did well kind of tricked us into thinking we could just do that indefinitely and just
keep innovating, keep trying new things, just go into whatever the whimsy takes you. Like, could be a possible idea for products for Studio Neat.
Yeah, and I don't want to lose that completely. Like, I still want to feel the freedom to kind of like enter these different markets and stuff. But it was kind of like, oh, okay, let's like tap the brakes a little bit and start to like think about our existing audience and serving them instead of just like jumping all over the place. So that was one key thing. One key difference. And then the second thing is not betting the farm on these huge products that take like a year of development and are kind of like the only thing we're doing for that year, which basically is what Obi was. And so basically it's trying to do more things at a little bit of a smaller scale. So like,
got it. So in the startup world, we would call this like a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
We'd be like, how do you use Kickstarter as a platform to test if this idea is good enough? And it's not your only thing that you're doing this year. It is like one part of this, one of 10 experiments that you're doing this year or something.
Yeah. And it's not even really the MVP type of thing, because our approach to products is still kind of the same, where we're releasing it as a fully fleshed out thing.
It has to be functional. It has to do with it. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, but we're just trying to like kind of, frankly, just like do more of them, like do more products and like try to release them quicker.
Yeah.
And hope that like not a single one of them has to be a blockbuster, but hopefully the cumulative effect like works out.
Interesting. Okay, so you're saying the first one is realize. What would you say? Is it like a realization? Is it of that initial audience or that core audience that you serve? Would you say it was a realization of who they were, or would you say it was just sort of like how do you describe that kind of coming back to them sort of thing?
I think it's just like thinking more deeply about who your audience is and who you're serving instead of just always thinking about product ideas first. Because Tom and I are both like very much just like product people. That's where our heads are at, and that's what we get excited about. So, instead of just thinking of cool product ideas in a vacuum, thinking about what we've made in the past and what people have liked, and again, how we can kind of, serve that audience.
Okay, got it. So coming back to that sort of core audience, thinking deeper about them, who they are, and what kinds of problems they have, and what products you can make that solve those problems. Like one that I use religiously is the Apple TV remote sort of holder, which you didn't do a Kickstarter for, right? Because it's such a simple sort of thing. You didn't need that huge investment up front. But I use it all the time. And then, of course, I have a kid's birthday party, and now I can't find the damn remote control. So here I am controlling the freaking Apple TV with my phone, looking like a weirdo. Going all my kids' friends' dads looking at me like, "Hey, you lost your remote control. What are you, some sort of nincompoop? What are you?" But anyway, sorry, that's a little close to the surface for me. As you can see, it's a personal issue that I'm dealing with heavily right now. So the first one was coming back to your audience and thinking deeper about them. And the second one was not betting the whole farm on this one project for the year, because that's significantly mucked up your guys' financial plans and projections. Like, how are we gonna put this year together, right? Yeah. Because your existing products kind of, you can coast a little bit on them, but you needed a new product that year of Obi, and it didn't come through.
Right.
And what about how long? If right now with the Glif, like the product is really well sort of defined at this point. You've got the prototypes. You need the money for the molding and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But is it a conscious thought to try the Kickstarter earlier on in the process? Because Obi, you guys did a lot of work to basically make that thing and a prototype of it before you even released the idea.
Yeah. So that was another thing, another failing of Obi is exactly that. Is we think we did a little bit too much work on the front end before validating the idea. And it made sense at the time because it was our first time dabbling with like electronics and stuff. So we were super gun shy. We wanted to make sure we had, all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. So we knew what we were doing and felt confident moving forward. And so I still, so we learned from that. But with this Glif, we still want to get pretty far along. Like we're always going to be a little bit hesitant to just like throw a random idea on Kickstarter and to validate it and then build it. Like that's kind of a bad approach in general. And Kickstarter actually like doesn't want you to do that. Yeah. Like you need more than just a napkin sketch or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was one of the problems with Obi is just like so much effort that was just ultimately wasted because it didn't succeed.
Interesting. Okay, so those are 3 great little takeaways for hopefully anybody thinking about Kickstarter stuff, because I think this is a really interesting situation that you're in right now to sort of like have some actual real deal wisdom about how to think about these things. I think you guys were humbled by Obi and your approach back into your business and into this latest Kickstarter and what will probably be the first of many things that are to come, right? Is a sort of I think the perspective that you found in this is probably something akin to wisdom in a space that's brand new. Say there's a person a little younger or a little earlier on in the process than you, and with something that's come up a lot in this conversation is this idea of validating the idea of the product. Is there what advice if you have right now 10 people in front of you who are a little bit earlier on and you can tell they're sort of like wet behind the ears and they clearly have spunk and charisma, but they need to, they're good, they're like on the fast track to a realization like Obi and a failure and possibly just going like, I'm not cut out for this, right? And giving up for good. What advice could you give them or like mindset wise almost in terms of like how to think about validating the ideas?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so I'll just start kind of in the middle. Is the first thing that came to mind is if you are new and you haven't like had past Kickstarter successes or product successes, you aren't kind of like a known person in any industry, then don't get as discouraged as I did with Obi with your first project. Yeah. And the reason Obi was so discouraging, like I said, is we felt like we had the leg up already. So the reason it didn't work is because nobody wanted it, more or less. But if you don't get funding your first time on Kickstarter, like it could be any number of reasons that don't have to do with the product, like marketing or just like you had a hard time getting the word out because you don't have that built-in audience or whatever.
Yeah.
So try not to, if it does fail, like don't let it be as devastating as Obi was for us. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of kind of like tips for new Kickstarter people we've said in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, people can do a Google search for like the basics of that kind of stuff. I'm just thinking like, what do you wish you would have heard before Obi? What do you wish maybe someone could have gotten through your head? Or what's just like of all of the tips, like what's the one that like you feel like whatever you do, just get this one?
Yeah, maybe that's it, is just like, don't be too it's like you have to have a thing that works. You have to have a prototype or whatever. Like, don't be ridiculous. Like, don't just have a sketch and then put it on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But also maybe don't be super precious about every last detail is in place, because that could ultimately just be, you know, wasted effort if the campaign doesn't succeed. So it's really just kind of finding that sweet spot. And I guess that's the tricky thing.
All right, Dan Provost of Studio Neat, you're an absolute stud. Keep going. Good luck with the release of the new Glif. I hope it keeps going like it has been, and that you guys reach your funding goal. And thank you for sharing your experience, your deep crushing soul horrible moments with us, as well as sort of your lessons learned, man.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
All right.